Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to the webinar, Unlocking the First Steps to Scaling Your Business Beyond a Million, which is probably, in the forefront and focus for many business owners. And certainly over I guess, almost 2 decades I've been a coach, and certainly the last 12 years that I've been a business coach. Um, it's an area that I've spoke to many, indeed thousands of business owners in direct reference to their aspirations to get beyond that and grow further. Multiple reasons, as we will come on to discuss today. And I think today's webinar is really to focus on the areas to structure growth and to where to pay attention. Now, I've only got 60 minutes with you, and I'm aiming to offer significant value as we go through this afternoon. I'm not going to be able to answer all the questions, but if you do have any questions at all, please pop them into the Q&A. We've got Sam and Laura, who are both monitoring the Q&A in the background, just to give me a nudge when there is anything that comes up, and then at the end, if there are any questions, anything of that nature, then we can dive into and answer. My intention from today is to set you away with some real agenda points of some of the things that you want to focus on, and almost certainly to challenge you to start thinking just a little bit more differently in how you can scale your business, how you can grow your business towards what might feel like that elusive £1 million revenue breakthrough. And it really isn't. It really isn't. There's a few things today that we'll talk about, which will hopefully just give you a bit of insight and some thoughts. I want to talk also about the as I go through today and the discussion in scaling the business, the mindset. It's a growth mindset that we need. And one of the things that I just want to start as a bit of a preamble really is, I'm not going to get into the politics or anything of that nature, but one of the biggest challenges that we all face today is the narrative across the UK and indeed global market. There is very much a woe is me, taxation, inflation rates, crisis for this, crisis for that. And I challenge you all as business owners to do and focus on one thing. And that one thing is to focus on what you do best. And that is going to be your business. For whatever your personal reasons and the vision that you had when you started, you did it because you're good at something and because you had drive and maybe still have that drive and commitment. And I'm sure you do. So focus on that. Focus on being able to do good business. One of the things that we'll be able to focus on beyond that is then how we create a greater level of productivity in your business, and by virtue, profitability and growth in your business. As I go through today, you want to take some notes. I'm going to make the recording available so that you can go back and reference it. Should you desire to. Again, anything that crops up, if there's an idea and something I share and you have a view on it, then please share it in the chat box, because I'm not the all-knowing oracle, but by virtue of what it is I do, I've been around enough businesses now to be able to share much of what I've learned. So without further ado, and the risk of waffling, let's dive in. So the very first thing is, where are you now? What does that look like? What does your business look like right now at this very moment? Are you're feeling that you're the busiest person in the business? It's not unusual to hear the stories when it look at, time, team and finance in a business that, often we're just looking, at the end of the month and making the bills. I'm the busiest person and the worst paid. And it consumes me. I don't have any time. I find myself consumed into the business pretty much 24/7. And it's gone from that sense of owning a business and having a vision and drive and commitment to then various degrees of owning a job. And this afternoon, what I want to really elaborate on is how we start stepping out of that, how we start to really scale up where it is that you want to get to and what your business looks like in the future. So when we look at scaling the business, it is about the process. It's about putting structure in, and it's not just an event. It's not a case of, there are people out there that have scaled their business and wow, check what they've done. I wish I could be like them. In my world and with the clients that I've got, they understand that, and we talk of it as very much a fixed mindset. Whereas there's almost an envious look in terms of, I don't know how someone gets to that level. Where you have a look at any of the successful businesses, they were often started in a garage somewhere. And it was resilience, dedication, drive, commitment, failing. And almost all of them will tell you they failed multiple times before they actually found the way. Take Thomas Edison, the great classic story there of 10,000 different ways to not make light. And then suddenly he did. So when we start to look at in the business, it's then putting some process behind what you're going to do. So some of that I'm going to offer a bit of an insight today in terms of what that structure looks like. When we're under £1 million in revenue, and now even there's a very broad brush statement, but roll with me on this. It's very much an owner dependent business. We call it and refer to it often as the hub and spoke. So you all know what a wheel looks like, and the hub in the middle. So a cycle wheel, and you've got all the spokes all the way around it. And then right in the middle, holding that whole wheel together, is the hub. That's you. That's you, the business owner. You're responsible often for every financial decision. You're responsible for every conversation with prospects and clients. You're the one that's got to give people the nod to do certain things in the business. And that hub and spoke side of life, that reliance on you, is something that can become quite burdensome and challenging as a business owner. And so when we start to look at this as, generally speaking, that below that £1 million mark, that's often the case. And certainly my experience of the many thousands of business owners I've spoke to over the last 12 years and the hundreds that I've coached, pretty much to a point, I've yet to come across a business that hasn't been in that place, and certainly from below the £1 million mark. Even in some instances, I've come across them above the £1 million mark significantly, and still there is that level of reliance on the business owner. Then we start to develop that £1 million to £3 million, and these are broad bracketed numbers, but there's more focus on the systemization. There is still some heavy reliance on you as the business owner, but we can now start to see structure appearing. We can start to develop a good business manual, and it's often because you've got people in the business that are starting to develop that, or there is a reliance on those people. Now, one of the things that we have to take into account is how do we create this in such a way that it can become predictable, that we know what the people are doing, that we know what our profitability is going to likely to be. And that is where we start to really focus on the systemization of a business. Now, one of the realities with the clients that I work with and when we coach them is right from day dot, we start to focus on the systems. So we start to build from the grassroots up. But often if a business has grown organically or over the years, then at this point, it's often in a place where it's only now that it feels that you've got to get some systems in place. And it might be because you've created a leadership team, and that leadership team have been given responsibilities. But as we go beyond that and we get, £3 to £10 million, then there's a lot more focus starts to happen. You're going to have a much bigger team. There's going to be a more of an onus with regards to having team members who have got responsibilities. You'll almost certainly have in-house, or you should have in-house, human resources or human potential. To make sure that we're looking at roles and responsibilities, to looking at exactly what it is that we're expecting our team members to do and how we expect them to conduct themselves, and what it is that we're looking them to do, that productivity that I talked about earlier. But these are broad brush statements. They are based on, a very average of what's going out there, and every business is different. So where are you right now? take a look in terms of your business and just ask yourself the question, am I the hub of this business? Is it truly reliant on me? And here's a litmus test for you on this one. If you decide to go on holiday, could you go on holiday for a full 2 weeks or even a month without your laptop, without any umbilical link to your business, and know confidently that it would run? And if the answer is no, then we've got work to do. Anyway, so moving on, the 5 pillars of scaling the business. So these are 5 key areas that we'll focus on in order to start to develop and scale a business in the direction towards, that elusive 1 million. To start to break down that barrier, to start to give you the means of being able to scale the business, because there's likely, really, let's put it this way, if you think about your business at the moment doing 250,000, and we were looking at a 20% margin, but then you're doing got a business of 1 million that's got a 20% margin. There's actually the scale between which one's likely to have more disposable income is going to be the bigger business, with the one with more zeros. And that's the context here. So what are the 5 pillars that we're going to be looking at today? Well, we're going to look at leverage. We're going to look at scalability, marketability, not marketing, marketability, the opportunity, and building a winning team. Now, all of those will sound very familiar in one way or another. And you'll probably say to yourself, well, that's not new, and I've got that in the business. But let's take a look. So leverage. Leverage is about doing more with less. There are some great examples of where leverage can really be maximized in the business context. The ability to actually scale up a business where you're looking of significant systemization. If it's a very simple one, if you have a process in your business as the business owner, and every time somebody has to come in to learn that process, and you're the one that has to tell them how to do that process, every single time there is a reliance on you. But what if you put a system in place, a learning management system, that took the new employee through a process, that educated them step by step, that explained and demonstrated and had the employee imitate and then practice for a period of time what it is that they needed to do? Suddenly you'll find yourself in a place where that's going to engage more and more and more and take less of your time. So there are multiple different areas of systems. I often look with any of my clients that I'm working with in terms of building the business manual. If you take every single step of your business, from the moment that you look at marketing through to the sales process, through to onboarding a new client, through to onboarding a new employee, through the process of actually delivering what it is you deliver, be it a product or a service, through the process of after customer or after service or after buying the product care, through to looking at how do we retain our customers, through to the mechanics behind the delivery of what it is that we do, and making sure that we're delivering high value. Then suddenly you can start to see that actually there's an awful lot that I need to do there in terms of developing the manual to get the systemization, to create that leverage, ever more with ever less. So the first of the 5 pillars is leverage. The second is scalability. And this is the part where I'll probably get you thinking slightly differently in terms of actually what it is that your business does right now. But scalability isn't just about kind of like, let's grow the business. I get that's what we're looking at doing, but look at where your business is right now. Let's say, for instance, you sell a product. Now, if you look at your business and the opportunity to scale your business, what model have you used? Have you just scaled your business through following a retail model? So what I mean by that is you started off with a smaller shop and you've steadily grown and you've got a bigger shop, and that's how we've scaled our business. But here's the thing, and this is what I want you to take away and go and think about. And this is really important in terms of actually building a scalable business. If you've got expertise in the product that you deliver, and I suspect you will have, then you can start to think about the different business models. So for instance, where do you source your product from? Who manufactures your product? So could you actually become a wholesaler? Could you actually start to manufacture your own product? There's some great examples out there. The Millionaire Club is a guy who got this shaver. You look it up on YouTube; it's really good. But in the process of actually scaling the business, and he did it rapidly fast because of a viral YouTube video that he put out, he ended up having to buy the razor manufacturing company in order to meet demand. Now, I'm not suggesting that for a moment that's something that we've all got to do here, but if you think about scaling your business, could you invest in, could you become the manufacturer of your own product? Are you wholesale for your product? If you look at retail outlets, well, what could you do? Could you license the retail outlet? Could you franchise the retail outlet? What's the level of e-commerce that you have on your product that you're selling? If you've got a very strong digital presence in terms of how you're selling it, is there a way in which you could scale up the people's ability to actually engage with you through software as a service? So actually then start to think, what SaaS could we have with this? Pretty much every business out there, that were on the high street names has an app. Look at all the supermarkets. Every single one of them has an app that you can go and purchase from. They've got software that's working in the background that's actually the loyalty cards that knows what their people are buying, what their customers are buying, and actually how to entice them to buy more. So suddenly when you look at it, what's the business model look like? And actually, have we just been very linear in our approach to the business? And could we look at actually stepping out left and right and being a little bit more wider into the spectrum of business and determine what it is that we could actually do? So the leverage side of life is really, really quite valuable and important when we start to look at how we can scale the business. Now, remembering, of course, as I go through these don't sit independently. These are actually, they work in unison together. So marketability. This is quite an interesting one, really. Marketability isn't just about marketing. Marketing is an activity where we'll look at the various different avenues that we can drive traffic digitally, where we can drive traffic traditionally with leaflets and brochures and the like. Marketability is about actually, if I market this, will people hear? Will people respond to? Will people engage with? Now, there lies the interesting rub. To give you an example, shoes, highly marketable. Why? Because we've all got feet and we all need shoes. So then you can start to think about actually, that marketability of the product that I've got is really quite valuable. So you can start to see the massive opportunity that you have got within that marketability space. Now, here's the thing in terms of the market opportunity. So when we look at the size of the opportunity, this is now where we look at actually understanding the market. So if you've got the marketable opportunity or marketability on shoes, now when you start to look at it, okay, what's the size of opportunity? Well, you've got leisure, you've got indoor, you've got outdoor, you've got walking and hiking, you've got sports, you've got farm wear, you've got protective wear. Suddenly the size of opportunity for selling shoes, if that's your business, and the marketability of your business is massive, because you've got multiple different aspects to go down, rather than being shoe shop. I'm a shoe shop and I sell everything. Because if I'm looking for shoes, am I ever looking for just shoes? Or what opportunity am I looking for? So more often than not, people will be very specific in what they're looking for. So when we start to look at this in terms of the size of opportunity, it's more than just actually what's presented here. This is kind of like that place where sometimes we just can't see the wood for the trees. So opportunity, what's the size of the opportunity that you're presented with? Another bit that I would just add to this one as well is Again, of you that are listening to this right now, how many of you are a UK based business? How many of you are a Devon UK based business? So obviously we're based down in Devon. How many of you are limiting yourselves just because actually that's where I am now? I'm of the mind straight away that, put a pin in the map and probably 10, 20 miles away you are, you've probably got more than enough business. But that's not what we're talking about here today. We're talking about the ability to scale the business. So what's the size of the opportunity when it then comes to the demographic? You know, what could you do more across the UK? Now, this goes back again. So I said it all works in unison with each other. So when you start to look at scalability and you start to look at the business model, well, how could I scale my business and get myself into different locations? Now, you'll probably all come up with different areas where actually scalability, take Costa Coffee, for instance. So every motorway service will find a Costa Coffee in there inside the motorway service, and now they've got drive-throughs. They scaled throughout the UK through being able to shape that model where they then became, whether it's an affiliate model and a license model, a strategic partnership, whatever that looked like, but they start to turn up in every motorway service. Where else do we find them? Well, now you'll find them in a lot of the big Tesco supermarkets, where they'll have a Costa Coffee that's inside a Tesco supermarket. So suddenly, if you're a brand that can scale in that respect, where could you find yourself? I'll give you an example. We were up in Yorkshire a couple of days ago and went to a farm outlet. And bearing in mind, we're down here in Devon, not too far from Exeter. When we were up in Yorkshire, we're looking through and we saw a coffee brand. And that coffee brand was made in Exeter. And what they've done is they've obviously got it onto a wholesale market, and they're now, getting it out to farm shops across the UK. And I suspect across the UK, because otherwise, how would they get up into Yorkshire? Another example, about a year or two ago, I was enjoying a bit of a holiday in Venice. Walking through Venice, and again, a local company to us here, Bert's Crisps. There was a stand outside, a gelato bar, and selling a stack of Bert's Crisps. So they hadn't just gone national, they then decided to go international. So the opportunity isn't just about that demographic, about where you are right now. It's, truly think outside the box, but it shouldn't be scary. It should be something that's actually I can see how that could be potentially achievable, and that's the key point here. Because of these 5 things, of the fifth is this one: scaling the business beyond that million and onwards, is almost certainly going to have to build out a winning team. Now, I know some of you may well believe out there that there's a lot of these influencers on YouTube and it's just them and they're doing it on their own. I guarantee they're not. Very few will be just one person just delivering that content. They will have all built a team. The Diary of a CEO is a classic example of how Stephen has actually taken that what started with him sitting at home recording a podcast, and now it is a major business function, and he has a significant team of people around him that is now driving and delivering that. So when we look at this in terms of going from, I guess what we're looking at here is going from an operator to a leader. You've got to there's a great book out there, Jim Collins, Good to Great, and he talks about getting the right people on the bus. So you've got to get the right people onto your bus in the right seats. Now, one of the biggest challenges on that is right now you may well have people in the business that are either in the wrong seats or shouldn't be on your bus. And you've got to ask yourself the question as to whether or not you maintain that, whether or not you keep them on the bus, or you look at actually, getting the right people on your bus and the wrong people off it. One thing that your business shouldn't be, and it may well be a CIC or a charity of some description, but it shouldn't be a charity. The fair exchange of value for anybody that you're employing is their level of productivity in terms of the wage that you pay. And the bottom line is here, they'll almost certainly end up being very well remunerated for their activities if the business scales and grows. The other thing to think about, and this was an interesting one, Daniel Priestley, I first heard talk about this in one of his books. And there is this notion that actually, if you've started your business with a group of people at one level, the likelihood is of growing them past 1 million and beyond, you might need to change that team completely. Just because you started with these driven individuals that were behind you, they got the picture, they understood it, but the growth of the business could likely outgrow them. And so as the business owner, you've got to be really tuned into the opportunity to grow your business. Now, in some cases, you're going to want to grow the people with you, and that's fine. But you're going to have to make sure that you put in place all of the mechanics to do just that. So the point here is, how do we create that winning team? How do you create, the dynamic approach to making sure that you've got the right people on the bus? And again, another good book out there is by Patrick Lencioni, called The Ideal Team Player. And he talks about three things: humble, hungry, and smart. Someone who's got high humility in terms of how they behave and their engagement. Someone is smart, and that means that they are people smart. They're really able to engage with each other, and they can read. They've got probably a high level of EQ, emotional intelligence, high level of PQ, which is positive intelligence, and they just understand people. And hungry. They've got a fire in their belly to want to do the best they can. You want a team of people that see Monday morning as an exciting start to the week. You don't want a team of people, or too many people in your team, that see Monday morning as the transition to Friday. Okay, let's move on. So leverage and free yourself up in your systems. So the point here is, what is the task that consumes your time the most on a daily basis? And what I want you to do is actually start to think about actually what you can take from this right now. So this is an action point from you. The power of systemization and automation in the business is, incredibly key in making sure that we've got that leverage in the business. So when we start to actually look at the automation in the business, what is it that you might feel that you're able to utilize right now? And it's been out there for probably the best part of 2 years now, and steadily grown, and it is quite significant in its presence today. And that is automation via AI. So not a case of replacing your people, by the way, but augment your people, empower your people to be able to increase their productivity through utilizing artificial intelligence or augmented reality or whatever any of those systems might be right now, to do their job better, to get more efficiencies. Within this systemization as well, we have an area of 4 areas that we focus on. So I just want to touch on these. And again, pick out what you feel is going to be relevant for you in your business right now. So first is people and education. So I talked a little bit about getting the right people on the bus. So people and education is absolutely critical. If you get the right people on the bus in the right seats, then how do you make sure that you're investing in them throughout the period of time, throughout their life with you in the business? So that education side of life is going to be really, really important. Delivery and distribution. So this is about the processing and efficiency in the business. Some of the best examples are franchises, because franchises, a really good franchise is a system. It's a business in a box. You buy that business, you buy that franchise, and when you open it up, there's a manual, and it's got a contents, and then you go through the contents, and step by step by step, you grow that business. You've only got to look at the likes of the big, fast food stores. Obviously, McDonald's is the one that immediately comes to mind, but any of them on the high street, you generally get the same standard of service and treatment, whichever store you go to. They use the same, and interestingly as well here, not just whichever store, but in whichever continent you're in. Bearing in mind, a lot of these are global now. Next one is financial and the metrics. So here's a point here when we start looking at leverage. So the whole point of leverage is that we create systemization that allows us to actually do things better and faster and create more productivity. So tracking and putting measurements to track performance in place is incredibly important. Things like bank accounting. And what I mean by that is a lot of business owners that I've come across, generally speaking, they just work on what's in their bank right now. They don't have a forecast in place. There's no budget in place. There's no metrics in place. They don't know what their marginal cash flow is. And what that is kind of like, if you imagine every pound that comes into your business, you could break that pound down into, what it's cost for production, what it's cost for, your team employment, what's the expenses, and then what's the margin. So when you start to look at your business in the context of actually the full context of leverage financially, then we can get some real leverage with regards to knowing what the numbers mean and how finances and money moves through your business. The other side, when we're tracking performance as well, whether you're using key performance indicators or objective and key results, is be really, really clear on the actual number or what it is that you're measuring. Make sure it's empirically driven. It's not just a thing. If you want to get more leads, I want to get more leads. So then put a percentage to it, put a number to it. So we're really, really focusing on what those numbers are that we're measuring. And then that final piece is technology and systemization. So how do we utilize technology in business? What areas in your business right now are you using technology? And if you're not, then maybe it's time to. I often find it quite quietly amusing to myself that we've got lots of old school people out there. And again, this isn't a knock at them, but I use technology. I have an electronic diary that is with me 24/7, although it doesn't disturb me 24/7. It's with me. So, it's on my phone, it's in my diary. I use Office 365. I have a task lists. We've got a calendar in there. I've got my email. So suddenly, it's pretty much, it's all there, but it's very systemized. So, linked to our CRM. So if certain emails come in, it triggers a response. It alerts the team in terms of who needs to have a conversation with who to put them into the diary. I mean, a great example for me is often I will see that somebody has booked into the diary just purely by jumping onto the website, looking at what we're doing, booking a call, and the next thing is in my diary. So what level of technology and systems are you actually employing in your business? Whether it's a learning management system, a CRM, or the full package of a business management system. There are so many off-the-shelf products from pretty much every industry out there. It's worthwhile finding the right one for you. Or even if you use things like Google and Google Docs and their Office suite, or Office 365 and their Office suite, what is the right system for you? How do you get leverage in that respect? So right now, just write a list of what are the systems that you need to actually start to focus on improving right now. Because the moment you start to look at those systems and improve on them, then you're going to start to move your business in the right direction, because you're going to create more capacity for you to think strategically in terms of the wider growth of your business, and more capacity for your team who can be more productive. Remember what I said at the beginning, if we're focusing on productivity, the net outcome of that productivity is, guess what? Profitability and growth. So that's where we're aiming. So scalability, in terms of the key points that you can absolutely focus on at the moment. What are the leverage areas of opportunity for you in your business right now? Okay, so let's take a deeper dive into the right scalable model. And I think the first thing I want to just talk about here is, I suppose, really I guess the difference between growth and scale in a business. So, actually, one of the interesting points is we can grow a business, and most often we grow a business and it tends to grow quite organically. We find a few things, we find marketing and sales and processes, and we probably learn a few bits and pieces along the way, and actually we can see that there is growth. And then this is the whole premise of today in terms of getting beyond that £1 million mark, is we just seem to hit a ceiling. And I use we very loosely. I mean, this is based on my own experience and the people that I've spoken to over the years, and pretty much to a nut, and it's not even near 1 million, but it's just at this point where we're quite just, as we would term it, wading through treacle. I'm making money, I've grown, but I'm not scaling. And scaling just takes a completely different mindset. You've got to have a different focus and approach to actually how you scale your business going forward. And that is, as we've said here, the scalable opportunity of your business model. So what's that business model look like for you right now? Product-based, service-based, licensing and partnerships are just some of the opportunities that you can look at. The bit that I would add to this one in terms of the scalability and the business model is one of acquisition. So we can grow a business, and like I said before, just a moment ago, there is a growth opportunity there organically. But if you want to scale your business, well, then we've got to start thinking differently. And this is where I want to just to evoke more of your entrepreneurship. What about if you then start to buy businesses like yours? So you have an acquisition model to follow in order to scale the growth of your business. Now, that might sound like, well, I don't have enough money to be able to actually scale my business that way. Well, again, there's things that you've got to go out there and learn, people that you've probably got to talk to, but there are ways and means of being able to actually acquire businesses. One, quite cheaply, you'll be surprised. Two, without using your own money. And three, where you can actually get people who are quite keen to sell and they just didn't realize it. And suddenly then you can find yourself, say over a period of a couple of years, you go from having one location to having 5 locations because you've scaled and bought each one. Go back to the first pillar of leverage and putting systems in place. You do need to have your systems in place. You do need to be structured and well run your own business so that you can then start to look at, scaling up on other businesses. But again, that in its own right is a full topic, and indeed one that we're going to be covering when we do a bigger event on this. More on that in a moment. And I guess how to match the model of your scalability to the marketing needs. Classic example where we saw some scaling and then some not was when COVID hit. You might want to put it in terms of the word pivot, but actually there suddenly was a case where a lot of businesses were forced to either find a way or they were out of business. And as a result of that pivot, word that was probably overused during COVID, as a result of that pivot, there were new opportunities that were found. How to deliver my business digitally, how to deliver my business remotely, whatever that looks like, people then suddenly started to match the model to the strengths of the market needs. So you can have a look at your market needs right now and determine, well, actually, are there different ways in which I can actually deliver what it is that I do, and that have an equal, if not better, impact in terms of what we do in the business. So choosing the right scalable model, a couple of areas or 2 or 3 things there to think about. So the marketability and capturing this opportunity. So as I mentioned earlier, marketability is it's the market opportunity and the ease of sale. Everyone wants shoes because we've all got feet. So when you start to look at it, it's kind of like, what are the areas of opportunity for you in your business in terms of actually the size of marketable or addressable marketable area that you've got to go after. So there are three key areas that I'll just get you to focus on when we're looking in that. In order to, I guess, in many respects, to simplify that growth and to get really focused on the level of marketability. First one is positioning for the market need. So You could position yourself, if you're selling shoes, as a manufacturer of highly quality, high shoes across a plethora, or you can go really narrow and deep and be the single best deliverer of high quality, robust walking boots, or Wellington boots, or whatever that might be. But what's the position for your market? And what is what is it that you need to position for the market need? So how clear are you on that? Is it a case of one to everything, or have you really started to look at that narrowing down? Seth Godin often talks about the value of going narrow and deep, whereas a lot of businesses go broad and shallow. And broad and shallow is kind of like shouting at the wall and hoping some stuff sticks. Whereas narrow and deep really does stick you out there in the marketplace, and it makes what you do incredibly marketable. So the next one is the clear messaging and brand visibility. And again, this is a whole subject in its own right, but I'll just share a couple of thoughts with regards to what this potentially could look like. Clear messaging often requires you to have gone through your business and have a look in terms of what are people actually searching for. What is it that people actually need in order to actually find us when we're marketing what it is that we need. See, what happens for a lot of businesses is their marketable approach is one of shallow and wide, and they just have big shout outs about the wide market area. They have a lot of shout out about how good they are, how long they've been going, how prestigious they are. And I call that weeing all over their prospects. Versus for yourself, it's kind of like, okay, what is it that we need to do for our customers? How do we deliver decent outcomes and value for our customer base? And that is where you can really start to focus on drilling down on your prospects' need and getting that messaging right. Lots to talk about on that one in terms of the strategies, and right at grassroots levels, the tactics that you can put in place to do just that. So then the next one is again, it's that simplicity in making the sale. Ironically, today this hasn't been a great example where we've had people jump on and try and book onto the webinar. You may well be watching this because I've sent you the recording. We had some challenges, some managed to jump on, but many didn't, because we had too many registrations to go through, because we had to change platform in terms of delivering the webinar. So when you start to look at this in the context of actually, how do I make it simple? Don't use my example from today, but go and have a look at what's that journey for a prospect. What's the process of sales? What's the touches that we take somebody through? How easy do we make it for someone to actually see what it is that we do and get to a conversion where they can say yes? So when you start to really start to drill down into the fine details of this, the whole focus on marketability and that opportunity is really, really important. So marketability opportunity. The last bit that I want to just touch on before I'm going to round up for today's session is the whole process of building a winning team. Right now for yourself, what gets in the way? What is it that that slows you down from having the time and capacity to focus on scaling your business? What can you deal with in terms of the bottlenecks that you're creating that could alleviate some of that time to allow you to focus on scaling the business? Where do you procrastinate? Where do you make excuses? Where do you blame other people? Where are you in denial that actually we'll never get to that point? When you start to really focus and identify those areas, then suddenly you can really start to create the time in order to then start focusing on the growth of your business. And I'm afraid that is one of the key aspects here with regards to today. If you take anything away from today, it's kind of like, right, how do I find the time to scale a business? How do I find the time to get to where I want to get to? How do I actually make sure that I'm not the busiest person in the business, and it's not busyness, but I'm able to focus on the business. So let me share with you the 7 keys to building a winning team. And there'd be no surprise here that the very first one is strong leadership. When we look at strong leadership, we are really looking at your ability to step up, enroll, and inspire your team. So inspiring your team and enrolling them so that they feel that they're on a purpose, that Monday, as I mentioned, isn't just a transition to Friday. Monday is an exciting day to get started and dive into what I love doing. Now, bear in mind that your team spend most of their time working from Monday to Friday. So why wouldn't we want to try and create the very, very best that we could? And it starts with leadership. It starts with your ability to generate the ambience, the culture that your team are going to get behind and follow you. So what's your leadership? Do you know what your style is? Do you feel comfortable as a leader? Do you feel more comfortable as a technician or a manager? Do you abdicate? Do you end up just taking most of the responsibility yourself? Hold the mirror up and have a real good conversation as to what it looks like for you as a leader. So the second one is then focusing on the common goal. So right now we're talking here about actually scaling this business to the next level. So what might that look like over the next 90 days? And what is the common goal that you can share with the team so there is clarity on what it is that we're striving to achieve? How many times were you yourself in a position where no one ever told you what was happening next or what was the next role or the job? And it's kind of like, you were treated like a mushroom, as the saying goes, kept in the dark and fed on the proverbial. So getting a common goal, having some clarity with regards to what that might look like. And do you know what? A really great place to start on that, by the way, is if, you don't need to go, well, where we're going to be in 12 months. You could just go, what is the goal for tomorrow? And start there, and then slowly build up the habit of, okay, so what is the goal for next week? Okay, now where are we next month? Okay, now where are we this quarter? And you can build up that habit of actually getting some clarity and focus with regards to what the common goal is in the business, step by step. Rules of the game is a really, really important one. If we don't have the rules of the game, and most importantly, if those rules aren't written down, then you just haven't had any influence on them at all, because I guarantee your team will have written the rules down themselves, or they won't have written them down, but they will have a set of rules that they're playing by. I've lost count of how many business owners I've come across where their team are telling them what to do. Not necessarily directly, well, I have witnessed that, but certainly indirectly, where a business owner will tell us, oh, we can't do that. It's not the way the team does it. Well, let's just remember, you're the business owner. You create the rules of the game. And when we look at the rules of the game, we've got, the ability to focus on what's going on the field and what's going off the field. And again, a lot more conversation to be had on that one. Excuse me a moment. Next is creating the action plan. What is the action plan? Now, again, you can go and do a 5-year plan and we can have it all mapped out. And I encourage and work with all of my clients to do just that. But right at the very start, right now, if you don't have an action plan, then, well, actually, what I've got to start to do is at the very simplest level, as I just mentioned with the goals, is I'm going to plan tomorrow, today. What am I doing tomorrow? And at the end of today, I'm going to plan for tomorrow. And then on Friday, I'm going to plan for what I'm doing next week. And then you build that. And then suddenly, before you know it, you're in a place where you're writing a quarterly plan. You may even be surrounded by your team and have a quarterly plan in play. And then you may find yourself in a place where actually we're then starting to build out, a longer term plan. We might put a 12-month plan in place. We might put a 3 or a 5-year plan in place. But we have an action plan in place where it's right back down to today. We've got clarity in what we're aiming to achieve and where we're aiming to get to. As a business owner, you've got to support risk taking, or you will remain the busiest person in the business, because every decision will come back to you. So what's the level of risk that you're comfortable with in the decisions that your team make? And more often than not, it revolves around finances. So what's that number? What's the number that your team can make a decision on that they don't have to default back to you in order to ask that question? And when you find that number, you'll find that you'll suddenly build more productivity and confidence into the team because they can actively see the impact that they're having financially in the business. So supporting risk taking is a really important one. Continuous professional development. I mentioned earlier on, having CPD in the business. How are you investing in your team members? And how are you investing in you? I've got no doubt that, as you're growing your business, that you're learning new things. That, when you started your business, you didn't realize the complexities of the business that you're now running. So suddenly when we start to look at this, is you've got to get right on top of actually the development, not just for yourself, but for the entire team. So what does that look like? So getting to 1 million, you've got to have the right team behind you. It's got to be A players. Take any Premiership football team. Is the assumption that, oh yeah, but they've got the best people in the world. You go to every footballer at the end of that year, if they haven't performed, what happens? They're moved on. They're let go. They go down a level to a lower team. Premiership football, in many respects, is a good example of actually good team in terms of business, because they recognise that in order for that team to perform, they've got to have A players. And so to have A players, it means that by the end of that season, those team members have got to have earned their keep. They've got to be and warrant the next season. What would it be like if we ran businesses like that? I'm not suggesting you do, by the way, because I'm sure HR would have something to say about it. But you get the premise and the metaphor with regards to really focusing on how you can develop and grow your team going forward. Okay, so pretty much a bit of a whistle-stop tour. Hopefully got some things that you've written down which will help in terms of actually starting to structure how you can scale beyond or to and beyond 1 million. Some of the things that you need to hold the mirror up for yourself in terms of you're the bottleneck and where you're getting in the way, and some of the areas of focus that might be quite challenging and certainly get you thinking differently. But the idea being is kind of like, I guess the point here is to invite you to a deeper level of learning and actually creating a plan to scale your business. So one of the things that we're doing, and again, I'm just going to ask you for your interest in this one. We'll be in touch with you after this webinar. But would you like and be interested in actually joining us for a fuller session? So it's going to be probably over a couple of days where we're going to take people through this and much more with regards to actually setting a plan out to scale a business towards and beyond 10 million. In order to do that, I'm going to offer you all a free coaching session. So, whether you jump on a call with me or whether we actually meet up if you're in the Devon area, and we can have a conversation with regards to what you took from today and what you feel that journey might look like for you going forward. So that's what we wanted to cover today. We'll be in touch, hopefully just to book a strategy call with you to have a conversation about what you took away from this session today, and see whether you're interested in actually attending the full workshop to invest in you, to take your business to those next levels and scale it beyond potentially where you are right now. Anyway, that's it for me, and thank you for your attention. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.